A provisional capital for the New Republic has been established on Mon Calamari. Leia and Han are meeting with representatives of the Imperial Remnant, hoping to secure an alliance with the independent body to retake the heart of the galaxy. Jaina has been promoted to the rank of Major, as the ranks of the Twin Suns Squadron have swelled after the Battle of Borleas. Senator Fior Rodan is favored to become the new Chief of State. Unfortunately, he is also a political opponent of Luke and the Jedi and will not support the formation of a new Jedi Council. Luke instead favors Cal Omas to be the next Chief of State. Jaina, meanwhile, leads a strike force against the warship believed to belong to Supreme Overlord Shimra over Abroa Sky. She is desperate for an end to the war that has brought darkness over the galaxy and her family. Jaina also has a brief flash sensing Jacen, but refocuses on the battle. The fighting is fierce, with the arrival of Hapan ships led by Queen Mother Tanel Ka tipping the balance in the New Republic's favor. However, Jaina discovers that Shimra was never present, but instead Supreme Commander Kam Karsh. Jacen and Vergir are flying away from Yuuzhan Tar, presumably to reunite Jacen with the Jedi. Vergir tells Jacen of her past. Long ago, over 50 years prior, she traveled to the planet Zonama Sekot, the Green Land. She was sent as a Jedi Knight of the Old Republic to investigate a strange threat. The attackers were called the Far Outsiders, which are now known as the Yuuzhan Vong. Vergir witnessed the native lifeforms of Zonama Sekot battle the invasive ecosystems of the Yuuzhan Vong. She was able to negotiate with the invaders, putting on a display of the Force's power. Vergir lied to the Yuuzhan Vong commander, saying it was the power of the planet's sentience. The Yuuzhan Vong decided to withdraw and prepare for their invasion of the whole galaxy. Vergir accompanied them, leaving behind a message for the Jedi to find. She believes this decision was key in allowing the current war to occur. As for the living planet, it seemed to be sentient and somehow flew away to an unknown destination. Luke continues to ponder the role of the Jedi in the provisional government. He proposes bureaucratic officials be included on the Jedi Council, sacrificing a large amount of traditional Jedi power. Jacen and Vergir arrive at Mon Calamari. Meanwhile, Supreme Overlord Shimra summons Savong La and Nomenor, commissioning them to create more warriors using Surge Coral implants. Nomenor is also ordered to arrange the assassination of Cal Omas and investigate the Shamed One's beliefs that the Jedi will be their saviors. Han and Leia meet with Grand Admiral Pellaeon on Bastion. They learn Jacen lives. Leia asks Pellaeon for information of hyperspace routes throughout the deep core in exchange for intel on the Yuuzhan Vong. However, the Moff Council believes the New Republic to be weak, losing its war and its government to be in disarray. Pellaeon proposes several worlds reclaimed from the Yuuzhan Vong be given instead to the Imperial Remnant. Jaina flies to Kashyyyk, one of the forward bases for the New Republic in the war. She also learns Jacen is alive and that the Bothan Council has declared the highest state of war against the Yuuzhan Vong. The Bothans will now not settle for anything less than a complete extermination of the invaders. Meanwhile, Shaper Nen Yim continues her heretical research with the 8th cortex of Yuuzhan Vong knowledge, seeking to create new theories instead of repeating ancient ones. Luke marvels at Jacen and Vergir's odd relationship, coming to believe Jacen is destined for great things in his future. He talks more with Vergir, confiding he believes the Jedi's knowledge in the Force is incomplete, that if the Yuuzhan Vong are truly a natural aberration, the Jedi are obligated to send them to death. Vergir eases his concerns by saying she believes by definition the Force encompasses all life, including the Yuuzhan Vong. This relieves Luke greatly, as he had worried if the Yuuzhan Vong were not life deserving of compassion, the war would have inevitably led to the dark side threatening to corrupt his Jedi Order. Vergir, similarly in her conversations with Jacen, argues to Luke anger is a natural emotion and can be of use without leading to darkness. To understand all and any emotion and not mindlessly release it is the route to mastery. Surrendering to the dark side means you have let your emotions control you, not the other way around. Luke also learns that Vergir has figured out how to hide her Force powers and can even rearrange her molecules, explaining her tears' powers. Nomenor, in his investigation, comes to the realization the 8th cortex does not exist. He now knows the Yuuzhan Vong are running on borrowed time, They have no further knowledge or innovation that can help them win the war. Lando Calrissian and Talon Karrde begin bribing several senators to swing their votes to Calomas by threatening to expose their corruption, while Mara tests YVH technology to root out Yuuzhan Vong infiltrators. She manages to foil an assassination attempt on Calomas, ruining another one of Nomenor's schemes. The next day, Omas is elected the new Chief of State, and he begins the creation of the new Jedi Council. Luke wants Silgal, a healer, and Mara to have seats on it. Also included are Kenneth Hamner and, perhaps most surprisingly, Kip Duran. It is also revealed former Admiral Ackbar and scientist Diff Scar have been developing a new strategy for the war. They believe the Yuuzhan Vong have lost 1/3 of their warriors since the war began. To finally drive them out, Ackbar proposes a series of small, harassing engagements akin to the rebellion to bait them into one final encounter. This will be conducted for 3 months. Consulting with his new Jedi Council, Luke shares his new philosophical revelations of the Yuuzhan Vong, believing it is now permissible for the Jedi to enter the offensive. He also decides to promote several new Jedi Knights, including Jacen, Jaina, Tahiri, Lobaka, and Tenel Ka. Jaina is named Sword of the Jedi. Luke tells her, "Yours is a restless life, and never shall you know peace, though you shall be blessed for the peace that you bring to others. Take comfort that though you stand tall and alone, others take shelter in the shadow you cast." 3 weeks later, Jacen and Jaina return to Kashyyyk, where Jaina's formerly Green Squadron has gained weeks of valuable experience. Ackbar decides now is the time for the Great Trap, to be staged on Ebaq 9 in the Treskov system. The Jedi will land on the moon in large numbers as bait, and the rest of the fleet will obliterate the Yuuzhan Vong as they arrive to attack. The scientist Diff Scar also reveals he has developed a bioweapon dubbed Alpha Red. Chiss scientists have isolated the genetic sequence unique to the invaders and created an airborne virus that will ravage any Yuuzhan Vong life forms. Luke wants the Jedi to be uninvolved with the application of Alpha Red, but Calo Mas supports testing the weapon out. A week passes, during which Vergir eludes her guards and uses her powers to sabotage Alpha Red, rendering it ineffective. She flees Mon Calamari, and it will take at least 3 months to redevelop the weapon. Luke feels that this is all the time he has left to win the war. Nomenor, Sabon La, and Shimra all come to the belief there is no trap at Ebaq 9 and make the decision to attack the New Republic there. A massive force not seen since the fall of Coruscant arrives, with Sabon La in command. As the fighting starts, the New Republic also sends a small task force to mine the hyperspace route to Ebaq and its moons. New squadrons drop out of hyperspace, and the battle quickly turns in favor of the New Republic. The trap closes and Nomenor flees once more to avoid the wrath of Shimra. Jaina's battered squadron lands on the surface of Ebaq 9. Seeing his defeat to be inevitable, Sabon La pursues them, declaring a Jedi hunt to his warriors. Jacen takes his ship to the moon as well, looking to save his sister. Vergir unsuccessfully tries to stop him from leaving the flagship. Meanwhile, the Yuuzhan Vong ships retreating from the battle are destroyed by the mines laid by the New Republic. The remaining ships are annihilated by the Republic fleet over Ebaq 9. 10,000 Yuuzhan Vong warriors and Sabon La land on the moon to hunt Jacen, Jaina, and 2 other Jedi. It is a frantic situation, with Jaina already exhausted from the battle. Jacen hurls Force Lightning at the Yuuzhan Vong, calling on his despair and anger. Suddenly, he sees a vision of Vergir. Vergir has commandeered an A-Wing. She pilots it into the moon's central shaft in a fiery explosion, sacrificing herself. The oxygen on the moon is sucked away by the fires, killing thousands of Yuuzhan Vong. Jacen and Jaina are able to protect themselves with vacuum suits, and Jacen also realizes Vergir is now dead. However, Sabon La also lived, the only Yuuzhan Vong on the surface to do so. He staggers to his feet and begins to hunt once more. He finds Jaina, Lobaka, and the Jedi Tassar. He wounds Lobaka and duels Jaina. Jaina stabs the War Master through the throat, killing him. In the aftermath of the battle, Alpha Red is put on hold, only to be revisited as a last resort. Jaina is promoted once more to Lieutenant Colonel. Supreme Overlord Chimera declares a death mark on Numenor. The Jedi Sabotage visits her homeworld of Barab 1 to find it absent of signs of life, seemingly conquered by the Yuuzhan Vong. She sees a large Yuuzhan Vong ship and lashes out in rage, opening fire. Saba destroys the ship, but is horrified to see the bodies of her own people spilling out. 3 months later, the Provisional New Republic debates the next course of action in the war. At long last, bureaucratic sentiment seems to have finally swung in favor of the Jedi. The government is renamed to the Galactic Federation of Free Alliances. Jaina is chosen to escort Han and Leia on a mission to patch gaps in the Alliance's communication network, and finds Tahiri, mysteriously hurt and screaming out that Anakin Solo was trying to kill her. She is chosen to accompany Han and Leia as well. Luke decides to take a team including Jason, Mara, and Danny Kui to find the living planet Zonama Sekot. Saba is also chosen to accompany them. Meanwhile, Numenor now lives in hiding in the lower levels of Yuuzhan Tar. He encounters a group of shamed ones and sees an opportunity to reverse his fortunes. Numenor asks the shamed ones he meets to tell him more about the Jedi, and learns more about their heretical religion, composed exclusively of shamed ones praising the Jedi as saviors. He sees a potential power vacuum opening up when they begin to turn away from the priests. Jason believes finding Zonama Sekot is the key to victory for the New Republic, and thinks it must be somewhere in the unknown regions. They will consult the Imperial Remnant and the Chiss for aid. His group arrives at Bastion, the Imperial capital, to find it under attack by the Yuuzhan Vong. They get in contact with Grand Admiral Pellaeon and agree to rendezvous at Yaga Minor. Pellaeon's ship is late to arrive, and Luke's team soon learns he has been badly wounded and is in a coma. He is revived by the Jedi healer apprentice Telki, but must be confined to Ebaq tank. Jason negotiates with General Barida, informing him his intelligence network is lightly compromised, and also proposing the Remnant formally join the Galactic Alliance. Taking the Twin Sun Squadron with them, Han and Leia's first stop is Galantos. They venture down onto the surface with Tahiri and Jagged Fel. While touring their quarters, Tahiri breaks away and finds an empty suite. Inside, however, is a totem to the Yuuzhan Vong god Yun Yanka. She faints once more. Jaina decides to fly to the planet of N'Zoth, which the native Fia of Galantos deemed to be no longer a threat. She arrives to find a N'Zothian fleet in shambles, its civilization seemingly destroyed. A native Yavethan pilot hails them from his starfighter. He claims the Yuuzhan Vong are too powerful and blows the ship up. Jaina flies back to Galantos, arriving just as the Yuuzhan Vong enter the system. Negotiating more with Imperial military officials, Jason is able to convince them to rally their forces at Boros with the help of Pellaeon. The Imperial Navy clashes with the Yuuzhan Vong in battle, with Luke and the Jedi providing additional support. Saba senses another ship containing captives like on Barab 1. She and Danny Kui take a fighter and act as bait to be taken into the slave ship. They manage to infiltrate it, where Danny releases several droids that poison the Yuuzhan Vong guards. Saba cuts a hole in the side of the ship to free the prisoners, and uses blow-rash jelly so they don't suffocate in space. Jason is able to pick up everyone in his ship. The battle concludes with the Yuuzhan Vong withdrawing, and Grand Admiral Pellaeon agreeing to join the Galactic Alliance, the Moff Council reluctantly falling in line. The Yuuzhan Vong are also driven away from Galantos. It is revealed that alien species Rin have a spy network operating against the Yuuzhan Vong as well. One of their agents patches into the Millennium Falcon and recommends to Han, Leia, and Tahiri they travel next to Bakura. Yuuzhan Vong warriors finally catch up to Numenor and slaughter all of the inhabitants of the camp he is now living in. Numenor manages to escape with 2 other shamed ones and decides to create an underground network spreading the Jedi heresy. He adopts the title of Yu Sha, meaning the Prophet. Luke Skywalker and his team are hailed by Commander Aurelia of the Chiss Expansionary Defense Fleet. She requests a meeting with Luke. After some persuasion, Aurelia agrees to allow the expeditionary team to venture to the planet of Scylla, but they are only given 1 week. Meanwhile, Han, Leia, Tahiri, Jagged, and Jaina arrive at Bakura to negotiate a political alliance. The welcome party is tense, and the squad learns the Pwek have initiated a slave revolt against the Sea Rook Imperium and taken control of the planet. The Pwek and the Bakuran government are wary the Sea Rook may return to retake the planet. Additionally, to further complicate matters, it turns out the Prime Minister Moliere Kundertal has been kidnapped. Meanwhile, Tahiri continues to wage an internal struggle between her Jedi and Yuuzhan Vong halves. Nominor, posing as Yuuzhan the Prophet, continues to spread tales of the Jedi as saviors to shamed one communities. The facade is only a means to an end for him, merely a way to get back to the surface safely. He orders his high-ranking acolytes to train a few select shamed ones for a special task. They will be trained as assassins and ordered to kill Supreme Overlord Shimra himself. However, all attempts fail, frustrating Nominor and stagnating the growth of his following. Inexplicably, Prime Minister Kundertal re-arrives in the system in an escape pod, claiming to have killed his kidnappers. Melinza Thanos, leader of a rebel group operating against the Pwek, has been charged with conspiracy and having a hand in the plot. Han and Leia are skeptical of Kundertal's story, and Jaina meets with Melinza with the help of a Rin spy and breaks her out of prison. Tahiri's spells continue where she briefly forgets her human identity. Luke's team lands on the icy surface of Scylla. It is a customarily chilly and unfriendly welcome by the Chiss, and Luke tells representatives of the planet's most powerful families they will search for Zonama Sekot with or without their help. They end up being granted only 2 days to search the entire library for clues. The research process is time-consuming and arduous, and they must all scour countless books to find evidence of a system gaining a new planet. Saba meets Sial and Tilly's Fel and her daughter Wyn, Jagged's mother and sister. Wyn decides to help with the research, forming a friendship with Jason. Rogue Chiss launch an attack against Suntir Fel, Jagged's father, in retaliation for allowing Luke and his team access to the Chiss databases. They abduct Wyn, but Jason is able to rescue her. Jaina is introduced to Melinza's fellow fighters, but they are betrayed by Blaine Harris, one of Kundertal's assistants, and imprisoned once more. Tahiri runs into another Rin agent named Gur, and they decide to investigate Kundertal further. They eavesdrop in a meeting and learn that Kundertal has betrayed Bakura to the Sea Ruvi Imperium. Tahiri and Gur rescue Jaina and reunite with Leia and Han. Just then, the Sea Ruvi appear and launch an attack on Bakura, reasserting their control over the Pwek in the process. However, in the midst of the battle, the Pwek rebel once more and help in the defense of the planet. Jaina confronts Kundertal and duels him, cutting off his arm. The Prime Minister flees. Tahiri has fallen into a coma and is now unresponsive. They also discover Kundertal was a human replica droid the entire time, a remarkable feat of engineering called entekment. Far away, Kundertal meets with a Sea Ruvi general, who is revealed to be a Yuuzhan Vong in disguise. He is slaughtered by several warriors. Jason finds a breakthrough in the search, shifting the focus to systems that have gained moons, not planets. With this new perspective, they are able to hone in on a moon in the Mobus system. Nominor is approached by Nagala, a priestess, who immediately sees through his disguise. She is the closest link he has found to Shimra's inner chambers and circle, and agrees to become Nominor's spy, having lost faith in Shimra. Still in a coma, Tahiri wages a mental battle against Serena, her Yuuzhan Vong alternate persona. Han, Leia, and Jaina have taken the Millennium Falcon to Onadax, where they reunite with Droma, now a Rin agent. He tells them they must travel to Esfandia, a communication center in the Outer Rim. It is believed to be under attack by the Yuuzhan Vong, and if it falls, the New Republic will lose contact with the Chiss and the unknown regions. Meanwhile, Luke's expeditionary team continues to search for the living planet of Zonama Sekot. The Jedi on board the Jade Saber suddenly feel a powerful surge in the Force, which they believe to be the elusive planet, seemingly in distress. Using a mind meld, the Jedi are able to glimpse a vision of Zonama Sekot, which shows the planet embroiled in battle with the Yuuzhan Vong. A powerful Force punch mentally knocks them out. The priestess Nagala feeds Supreme Overlord Shimra false intel of the Shamed One heresy worshipping the Jedi. Shimra deems it a large enough threat to warrant complete extermination, beginning with the brutal execution of many martyrs. It is indicative of Numenor's growing reputation in the underground society of Yuuzhan Tar, although he must keep his procession constantly on the move to avoid being tracked by Shimra. At long last, the Jade Saber finds Zonama Sekot, its defenses driving back the Yuuzhan Vong just like in their vision. Jason woke up first and was somehow told the coordinates to travel to. Upon landing, they meet two local Pharaohs who call Zonama the planet and Sekot its consciousness. Perhaps most surprisingly, it is revealed that other Jedi besides Vergir have been to the planet before. Despite his growing movement, the heresy to Numenor is merely a tool to strike back at the orchestrators of his political downfall. He must balance this desire with maintaining his facade as a prophet. Nagala tells him of a recent mission to find the planet of Zonama Sekot, which Shimwa supposedly fears. The Millennium Falcon arrives at Esfandia to find it beset by a massive Yuuzhan Vong fleet. Galactic Alliance forces, backed by Grand Admiral Palaeon and the Imperial Remnant, arrive soon after to defend the planet. Han, Leia, and Droma pilot the Falcon down to the surface to find the communication base, while Jaina and Jagged fall into their normal roles of ace pilots in the battle. Unfortunately, when flying over the surface, the Falcon's engines inadvertently kill several locals. On Zonama Sekot, talking with the local Pharaohs, Jason learns that Anakin Skywalker and Obi-Wan Kenobi once visited the planet, and Anakin killed a figure called the Blood Carver. Luke brings the local government up to speed on the galaxy's war with the Yuuzhan Vong. They learn the Blood Carver was an assassin intended to kill Anakin, who defeated it with only the strength of his mind. Despite being powerful in the Force, he briefly fell to anger and darkside in that moment. Later that night, rogue Pharaohs attack Luke's camp and kidnap Danny. Jason and Saba immediately set off in pursuit. The Remnant and Galactic Alliance are able to gain a foothold in the space over Esfandia. To regain the locals' trust, Han and Leia send a transmission into orbit to draw the Yuuzhan Vong in. Meanwhile, Nagala continues to bring forth traitors for Shimra to execute. Chaos continues to slowly grow in the Supreme Overlord's court. An advisor to Numenor starts a coup against him, but his bodyguards burst in the room and kill the perpetrators. Jason and Saba catch up to the kidnappers with ease, and Jason attempts to find a peaceful solution. He decides to let the rebels take them to Senshi, their leader. Meanwhile, Tahiri duels Rena and her mind with her lightsaber, but is fighting a losing battle. Jaina leaves the battle over Esfandia to help Tahiri, having felt her anguish and pain in the Force. She briefly forms a mental connection with Tahiri to help her in the conflict, battling the grief she still feels from Anakin's death. With the help of Jaina's mind meld, Tahiri joins with Rena, combining their cultures and aspects of light and dark. She awakens, with her two minds fully joined and finally feeling whole. Senshi, it turns out, has also kidnapped the Pharaohan Magister as well. His rebel group is distrustful of outsiders and seeks to avoid their planet being plunged into another era of death and destruction. Meanwhile, Han and Leia protect the Esfandian locals from a Yuuzhan Vong bombardment, gaining their confidence once more. Unfortunately, the Yuuzhan Vong have effectively surrounded the planet from space, trapping the Millennium Falcon on the surface. Tahiri proposes to Palaeon she posed as a fake double agent by offering to betray Han and Leia to the Yuuzhan Vong. Senshi marches his group out, but they cross a seeding ground of sentient Boris trees native to the planet. The trees begin to attack the group. Meanwhile, a coral skipper that survived the battle attempts to flee the system. Luke is adamant that Sekot does not lash out and kill it, otherwise they risk the planet falling to the dark side. Jason is able to calm the trees by speaking to them through the Force, but is startled when an apparition of Vergir appears. Across the planet, Luke sees a similar vision but of Anakin Skywalker. Both appearances are the work of Sekot, the mind of the planet. The kidnapping of Danny was meant to be a test of the team's motivations. Both Luke and Jason independently talk to Sekot, with the subject inevitably turning to the Yuuzhan Vong War. Jason still does not want to invoke a genocide of the Yuuzhan Vong and tells Sekot he would not want it to join the war. Luke, however, decides to accept Sekot's offer to join their cause, as he wishes to avoid a dark dominion of Lord Shimra over all life in the galaxy. Over Esfandia, the Yuuzhan Vong take the bait, and battle breaks out anew, with the Galactic Alliance and Imperial Remnant now gaining the upper hand. The Yuuzhan Vong commanders are soon left with no choice but to seek an honorable death and order a suicide charge at the Alliance fleet. The Yuuzhan Vong are destroyed, and the battle soon ends with Esfandia remaining in the hands of the Galactic Alliance. An important communication outpost between Mon Calamari and the Outer Rim has been restored. The Rin spy network is formally brought into the folds of the Alliance as well. Shimra holds court once more and reveals he has learned of Nagala's treachery and loyalty to the heretical cult. Nagala commits suicide by poison, and Nomenor watches through a villa as her body is dragged from the throne room. It is a crushing blow to his aspirations. Nomenor reignites faith in his following by telling them of the living planet Zonama Sekot, which Supreme Overlord Shimra supposedly fears. He claims he has had a vision of the Shamed Ones and Jedi walking hand in hand on the planet. Meanwhile, Wedge Antilles battles the Yuuzhan Vong in the Duro system. He is forced to abandon it, but the Duro ships remain behind to fight. Elsewhere, the shipyards of Fondor are also reclaimed by the Galactic Alliance forces, setting the stage for an attack to retake Coruscant. Wedge seeks to gain more ground in the Bilbringi system, which would also serve as a barrier between the galaxy's capital and the Imperial Remnant. However, upon arriving, his communication network goes down, effectively isolating his army. Tahiri travels to Dagobah to meditate, but is tracked by several Shamed Ones and Yuuzhan Vong warriors. The warriors slaughter the Shamed Ones, and a dying Yuuzhan Vong asks Tahiri to promise to tell their prophet of Dagobah, a potential new home for their religion. The priestess Nen Yim is brought a living ship from the planet of Zonama Sekot to study. She continues to research the 8th Cortex under secret orders from Shimra, looking to develop new knowledge and teachings that will let the Yuuzhan Vong rebound in the war. Nen Yin consults with Shimra, informing the ship is completely alien to the Yuuzhan Vong, though not superior. The Supreme Overlord claims the planet to be destroyed, but Nen Yin sees through his obvious fear and uneasiness. She meets with the priest Harar, who secretly seeks to overthrow Shimra and is also interested in the living planet. Nen Yim also learns more about the Prophet and his heretical following. They scheme to contact the Prophet and travel to the planet with the hopes of eliminating 2 threats to the Yuuzhan Vong at the same time. Nomenor receives Nen Yim's invitation, and in turn decides to travel to Zonama Sekot alongside a Jedi to fulfill his fake prophecy. He manages to get in contact with Tahiri in the guise of Yusha and as leader of a dissident movement. Tahiri and Corran Horn take a ship to Yuzantar, where they are able to extract Yusha, Nen Yim, and Harar. They find Zonama Sekot and are able to land safely. It is a momentous occasion for Nen Yim and Nomenor. Tahiri and Corran begin searching for Luke's expeditionary team, which they believe is still on the planet. The longer Nomenor spends on Zonama Sekot, the more he understands Shimra's fear. He decides to aid Nen Yim in her fact-finding mission. Nen Yim comes to deduce the existence of Sekot, the intelligence that links all living organisms on the planet that allows them to survive harmoniously. Tahiri believes this is accomplished through the Force, even suggesting that Yuuzhan Vong life originated from this planet. Nomenor sees an opportunity to fall into Shimra's good graces, instead of constantly cheating death by destroying Zonama Sekot. Contacting the Supreme Overlord via a villa, Nomenor tells him of the planet's existence and asks for ships to be sent to the system. Meanwhile, Wedge and Jaina engage the Yuuzhan Vong in Bilbringi. Jaina is tasked with leaving the battle to get back in contact with Palaeon. She flies to see if the nearby Golan battle stations are operational. The station she finds is functional but has been commandeered by pirates. She is stunned with a hypersonic blast and taken captive. Corran and Harar are searching for Zonama Sekot's massive hyperdrive that allows the planet to travel. It is also, coincidentally, the target of Nomenor's planned sabotage. Nen Yim is able to form a brief but tremendously powerful mental connection with Zonama Sekot, nearly overloading her brain with information. Nomenor eavesdrops as she tells Tahiri she has learned the secret of the planet. He makes his move, stalking Nen Yim as she wanders away to meditate. Numenor attacks her, mortally wounding the priestess and revealing his true identity. Tahiri finds a dying Nen Yim, who tells her of Numenor's presence and his plan to sabotage the planet's hyperdrive. Corrin and Harar, meanwhile, have already arrived at the massive metallic structure. Tahiri finds them returning to camp and alerts them of Numenor's plan. At the hyperdrive, Numenor receives a message that Yuuzhan Vong ships are in high orbit around Zonama Sekot and are ready to extract him. Believing his sabotage is complete, he encounters Corrin and begins to run away. He confronts Tahiri and Harar. In a scuffle, Harar is swept off a cliff and falls to the ground, presumably dead. Tahiri also falls but is able to grab onto a cable and survive. Corrin arrives, saves Tahiri, and the two chase down Numenor. However, a Yuuzhan Vong ship lands and drops several warriors, surrounding the Jedi. Han and Leia arrive at the battle and Bill bringing in the Millennium Falcon. Jaina watches from the battle station as the Yuuzhan Vong fleet reinforcements also arrive and prepare to crush the Alliance ships. She manages to use the Force to make the pirates enter the wrong coordinates into the station's hyperdrive. Instead of escaping the system, they are flung into the heart of the battle. Han, Leia, and Lobaka break into the station and rescue Jaina. Wedge is able to safely withdraw his forces from Bilbringi. Tahiri and Corrin prepare to face the overwhelming numbers of Yuuzhan Vong warriors, but just then the Jade Shadow swoops in. Mara, Luke, and Jason drive back the enemy and save Tahiri and Corrin. Numenor manages to escape once again and prepares to return to Yuuzhan Tar in triumph. However, he watches from space as a brilliant blue light appears. Sekot has overcome his sabotage and initiated its hyperdrive. The planet jumps to hyperspace. The end of the Yuuzhan Vong War begins on the conquered planet of Selvaris. In a prison camp, a Rin agent smuggles in several data cards. Several prisoners memorize the data and make plans to escape to bring the information to Alliance Command. 4 attempt to flee the camp, but only Thorsh, a Jeanette, survives. He is picked up by Han and Leia in the Millennium Falcon. It turns out the data is a code of seemingly nonsensical numbers. Intelligence analysts are able to deduce its meaning. The Peace Brigade plans to transport several hundred high-ranking Alliance prisoners from Selvaris. They are to be presumably sacrificed on Coruscant, but the Alliance now knows the route the Peace Brigade will take to get there. General Wedge Antilles plans to ambush the convoy at Selvaris before it jumps to hyperspace. The rescue operation commences and a battle erupts on Selvaris. Han and Leia join the strike teams sent to extract the prisoners. Most of the captives are rescued, but some are taken on the hyperspace jump to Coruscant. As the Alliance ships withdraw, Jaina's twin sun squadron takes losses and the Millennium Falcon is damaged and forced to make a random hyperspace jump. On Yuuzhan Tar, the mood of Shimra's court is somber. The tide is turned against the Yuuzhan Vong in the war, and now they wonder if they have been abandoned by their gods. Shimra introduces an elite force of warrior priests called Slayers, modified by his Shapers. They are his version of Jedi Knights. Numenor meets with Shimra later, and learns the Supreme Overlord believes a war is necessary against the gods themselves and their true believers to preserve the Yuuzhan Vong. Luke, Mara, Jason, Tahiri, and Corrin continue to shelter on Zonama Sekot as the living planet flies through hyperspace. The planet's atmosphere and natural environment was scarred by Numenor's failed sabotage and the unplanned jump. Sekot appears to the party, telling them the planet will survive. It also happens to believe in the tenets of the Potentium, the belief in a force not divisible into light or dark. Danny Kui finds the priest Harar, who survived his fall during their fight with Numenor. Harar's faith in the Yuuzhan Vong religion has been greatly shaken. He recalls Nen Yim's epiphanies regarding Zonama Sekot's history and how it intertwined with the Yuuzhan Vong homeworld. Luke, Jason, and Harar venture forth to talk with Sekot itself. Upon arriving, Sekot realizes the Yuuzhan Vong are a people who are stripped from the Force as some sort of punishment. The Millennium Falcon drops out of hyperspace in the Kula system. It turns out they have been defending themselves from the Yuuzhan Vong for nearly a month since the local comm network went out. It is believed the Yuuzhan Vong have attacked the system for the purpose of taking large numbers of captives. The Falcon is repaired during the battle and a general evacuation order is given. Several rescued prisoners from Selvaris stay behind to defend Kula. Boba Fett himself turns out to be one of the defenders, even escorting the Falcon out for its jump to hyperspace. Returning to Yuuzhan Tar, Numenor has been promoted to prefect for his alleged destruction of Zonama Sekot. Additionally, the heretical religion he stoked the flames of has continued to survive. Numenor returns to his congregation, which plans to disrupt Shinra's massive upcoming sacrifice, and attempts to dissuade them from attacking. However, the fanaticism is too strong, and the Shamed Ones cannot be swayed from their course. Hundreds of Shamed Ones storm the place of sacrifice and attack the warriors guarding the prisoners. Han and Leia safely return to Mon Calamari, where they are greeted by Jaina. They learn Kula has fallen, and hundreds were taken to Coruscant. The Alliance plans to send half its forces to retake Coruscant, with the other half staying behind to defend Mon Calamari. It is believed the imminent attack on Mon Calamari will be from a giant Yuuzhan Vong fleet commanded by War Master Naz Chaka. Han volunteers to be part of the return mission to Kula to kill the Yamas stationed there. As Naz Chaka readies his forces to sail for Mon Calamari, it is revealed Kula surrendered easier than expected and made requests for science to visit and observe rare natural phenomena unique to the planet. Several scientists are allowed to travel to Kula. Han, Leia, and Kip Duran are part of the team that infiltrates the planet with the scientists to strike at the Yamask. On Yuuzhan Tar, Numenor continues to lose faith in Shinra's leadership, believing him to be growing unstable and less predictable. The enormous Yuuzhan Vong fleet arrives at Mon Calamari. Jaina and her twin son squadron fly out to meet them. The Galactic Alliance holds its own, but is mystified when the Yuuzhan Vong suddenly decide to withdraw and jump to hyperspace in the direction of the core. The Kula team finds scores of corpses as they trek into the city. They are attacked by several Yuuzhan Vong warriors, led by Malik Kar. They are captured and taken to be executed. However, all the Yuuzhan Vong seem to be hindered by a mysterious illness. The Yamask and Malik Kar both die in front of Han and Leia. It is revealed the biological weapon Alpha Red has been unleashed on the planet. Kula was allowed to fall so the weapon could be tested on a live population of Yuuzhan Vong. On Zonama Sekot, Jason and Luke have a philosophical conversation about integrating the full potential of the Force. Jason is an advocate for incorporating the raw power of controlled emotions such as anger into their training. He believes his visions of Vergir were real, and that she may have learned how to delve into the unifying Force, a different aspect from the living Force. Zonama Sekot arrives at Coruscant to the elation of the Shamed Ones. The magnificent rainbow bridge over Coruscant is destroyed, and the planet becomes rife with tremors and aftershocks. Shinra believes the living planet to be a tool of the gods that they handed to the Jedi. He declares Numenor to be his envoy, who quietly remarks at the downfall of the Yuuzhan Vong Supreme Overlord. He has lost control and has become deranged in his decision-making. Shinra believes that a crippled Yuuzhan Vong vessel, which has been poisoned with Alpha Red, will be able to be used in a strike to kill Zonama Sekot. The Millennium Falcon returns to Mon Calamari, that makes several jumps towards Coruscant. The existence of Zonama Sekot, a sentient planet that can move through space on its own, continues to baffle Yuuzhan Vong and Alliance intelligence alike. Han and Leia find Zonama Sekot and land on it and reunite with Luke. Meanwhile, Alliance and Imperial Remnant forces begin to gather in massive numbers for an all-out attack on Coruscant. Akbar, the former admiral for the rebellion, passes away peacefully from old age. The planet of Korulog is reclaimed for the Alliance, setting the stage for the final battle of the war. Jason recalls the Force vision he had years ago at the beginning of the war, where he drops a lightsaber thrown to him by Luke and the galaxy falls to darkness. An apparition of Vergir visits him again, urging him to surrender his desire to control the events ahead of him. The Jedi worry that Shinra will have the world brain render Coruscant uninhabitable should defeat be imminent. Luke is concerned that Alpha Red might also be deployed on the capital, and wonders if it would be worth it to concede Coruscant in order to end the war. Zonama Sekot constructs several living vessels to be used in the war effort. Naz Chaka continues to trust in Shinra's handling of Yuuzhan Tar's defense in Zonama Sekot. He attacks the Alliance forces at Muskave after withdrawing from Mon Calamari. providing a distraction that allows for a strike team to take the poisoned ship to Zonama Sekot. Shinra has the world brain start fires across the surface of Coruscant, creating an apocalyptic hellscape. Numenor is commanded to dispel the Shamed Ones and leads Yuuzhan Vong warriors out to kill thousands of heretics. Witnessing the death and destruction around him, he decides to fully turn his back on Shinra and returns to his guise as Yuuzhan the Prophet. Han, Leia, and the priest Harar take the Millennium Falcon down to Coruscant's surface to attempt to pacify the world brain. Luke, Mara, Jason, Jaina, and Tahiri lead a team as well to help the heretics fight against the warriors. Both squads mourn the destruction they see on the surface, reminded of what the galaxy's capital used to be. Han and Leia are captured and taken to the well of the world brain to be executed. Luke's team closes in on Shinra's citadel. He, Jason, and Jaina continue on to find Shinra and kill him, while the rest stay with the Shamed Ones. Numenor's forces are putting up a brave fight, but are slowly being killed off. The arrival of 3 Jedi, including Mara and Tahiri, however, turns the tide. Tahiri traps Numenor with a force wall and signals to Mara. Numenor manages to break free and flees, pursued by Mara. Yuuzhan Vong ships attack Zonama Sekot, only to be met by Alliance and Imperial fleets, as well as the Haven Consortium led by Tanel Ka. Lando Calrissian detects the ship carrying Alpha Red, closing in on the living planet. Shinra withdraws to his coffer for protection, guarded by his elite slayers. Mara chases down Numenor and begins to beat him down, striking at him in vengeance for the grief he unleashed on the galaxy and her family. Numenor begs for mercy and she withdraws, not giving in to the dark temptations of anger. Mara learns of the plan involving Alpha Red and takes Numenor and his Shamed Ones to rescue Han and Leia in the atrium of the Senate. Luke, Jason, and Jaina storm Shinra's citadel. Jason finds his mental connection with the world brain. His former Durium is still intact. The bond and relationship when Jason was a slave remains. Luke becomes a storm in the Force, becoming an unstoppable force as they push towards the coffer. Jason is able to telepathically urge the world brain to reject Shinra's commands and stop Coruscant's apocalypse. They break into the coffer and confront Shinra himself. The Slayers and Jedi battle, with Luke once again surrendering himself to the Force and becoming a fighting machine incomprehensible to Jason and Jaina. The world brain, in an attempt to help the Jedi, rocks the coffer, making the floor unstable. Meanwhile, Nazchaka appears to gain the upper hand in the battle over Zonama Sekot. Shinra's shamed jester Onimi begins to crawl away from the battle, pursued by Jaina. He ambushes her and stabs her with the fang coated in a paralytic poison. Jaina is surprised to find she can detect him in the Force. Luke and Jason continue the battle of the Slayers. Shinra enters the battle himself, wielding Anakin's lightsaber, and briefly overpowers Luke, poisoning him with the Scepter of Power. Luke uses the Force to use Anakin's lightsaber to cut himself free and decapitate Shinra. Weakened, he throws Anakin's lightsaber to Jason, who misses it, just like in his vision. Nevertheless, he steels himself and goes to find Jaina. Numenor and the Jedi strike team burst into the coffer soon after, finding Shinra's body and a barely conscious Luke, but no sign of the twins. Jaina is hung from hooks by Onimi. He believes her to be the goddess Yun Harla, and rants at her for driving the Yuuzhan Vong from their home galaxy. It is revealed Onimi grafted Yamask cells to his neural tissue, which gave him the power to manipulate others at will at the cost of his shamed deformities. He chose to turn against the gods after watching Yuuzhan Vong's society crumble, and began to manipulate Shinra. Onimi is responsible for starting the war, and has been controlling Shinra's decisions the entire time. Because of his mind melding with a Yamask, he also regained his connection to the Force. Now he plans to kill Jaina and exterminate all life in the galaxy. Onimi prepares to launch Shinra's coffer to flee to space. Jason then arrives and confronts the true Supreme Overlord. He prepares to battle the powerful enemy and hears the voice of Anakin Skywalker in his head, telling him to stand firm. Jason also realizes he can sense Zonama Sekot through his Vong sense. Meanwhile, Nazchaka learns of Shinra's death and prepares to rendezvous with the coffer, believing the news to be false. Onimi hurls countless objects at Jason, who stands firm and creates a whirling defensive cloud around him. Jacen charges Onimi, and they meet in a clash of electrical energy. Onimi manipulates his molecular secretions to try and poison Jacen, but he cannot find the Jedi in the Force. Jacen becomes a being of light and breaks through the opposites of light and dark to finally tap into the unifying force. He becomes perfectly balanced, beyond good and evil, light and dark, and beyond choice and consequence. Through complete surrender, Jacen Solo becomes a master in his own right. As a pure conduit of the Force, and now the center of the vision that had haunted him for so long, Jacen realizes he will never be able to reach the state again, and will spend the rest of his life trying to do so. He turns Onimi's poisons against him, and the shamed one dissolves into a puddle. Leia, Han, and Numenor arrive to the scene soon after, stunned. Numenor attempts to attack Han, Leia, and Jacen to escape, but Jacen shrugs off his poison and Leia cuts off his hand. The Yuuzhan Vong finally accepts his fate, knowing he will be rejected by both the Galactic Alliance and Yuuzhan Vong survivors. He loads the Solos into an escape craft and launches it, staying on Onimi's dying ship and resigning himself to death at long last. Upon seeing the destruction of the coffer, War Master Naz Chaka acknowledges defeat. He gives an ultimatum to the rest of the fleet, telling them they have the option of surrender or to die fighting. Zonama Sekot is able to repel the Alpha Red ship before it can land, sending it into deep space. The Yuuzhan Vong War is over. It is believed 365 trillion lives were lost in the course of the fighting. Coruscant is reclaimed, and many living Yuuzhan Vong vessels self-destructed or flew kamikaze missions into Alliance ships. The enemy fleet is shattered, now scattered across the galaxy. Naz Chaka is technically the highest ranking warrior left, but has made no clear decision yet. The question now lies with how to handle the thousands of Yuuzhan Vong prisoners now held on Coruscant. Jacen is able to use a new molecular arrangement power to heal Luke. Luke remarks how Jacen and Jaina seem to have aged noticeably after the war as well. The three meet with Sekot, who tells them the true nature of the planet and its connection to the Yuuzhan Vong. Zonama Sekot is a seed of Yuuzhan Tar, the Yuuzhan Vong original homeworld. It is revealed that Yuuzhan Tar is believed to be destroyed by its original symbiotes, the species that became the Yuuzhan Vong. The Yuuzhan Vong created their gods based on the consciousness of that parent world. However, because of an invasion from a presumably mechanical entity, the original Yuuzhan Vong fell to violence and lusted for war. Because of this, the planet stripped them of the Force, and consequently of their symbiosis with that living world. This caused the Yuuzhan Vong tremendous pain, and led to them worshipping pain and death as the only reminders of the connection they had to their homeworld. For the first time in Yuuzhan Vong history, Naz Chaka issues a formal statement of surrender to the Galactic Alliance. Their new keeper will be Zonama Sekot, and they must surrender their bioweapons and ships as well. Naz Chaka agrees to round up the scattered Yuuzhan Vong and take them to Zonama Sekot, which will fly into the unknown regions. Shapers will remain on Coruscant to help the World Brain rebuild the planet. The Galactic Alliance government is moved to Denon, and all traces of Alpha Red are destroyed. Luke implements a new Jedi Order, believing their role to have dramatically changed. They will no longer act as a police force, instead returning to their meditative roots. He seeks to teach them light and dark can sometimes mingle, and the will of the Force must take precedence over all. It is when Jedi seek to dominate that will, to control it, that they fall to the dark side. This is the unifying force, and Luke encourages all the Jedi to embark on more individualistic journeys to learn how they can best serve it. Jacen decides to go on a solo pilgrimage to learn more about his recent epiphanies. After several weeks, Zonama Sekot departs for the unknown regions, carrying the vast majority of the Yuuzhan Vong. Luke, Mara, and the Solos travel to Kashyyyk, where Han places Anakin's lightsaber on Chewbacca's grave. They all embrace, celebrating the war's end.